State Park and the rededication of the Virgil Grissom State Memorial. My name's Mark Young and I'm property manager here. I've been here almost 2 years, and I'd like to start off by introducing a few people here before we continue on. First, I'd like to introduce Jerry Pagic. He's Director of the Division of State Parks. And what I'd like to do is start off by recognizing a few of the family members that are here of the Grissom family. First, we have Mr. and Mrs. Dennis Grissom sitting right up front, parents of Gus. We have Wilma and Joe Beavers that's here. She is a sister of Gus. Also Norman and Becky Grissom, brothers. We also have Joanne Bryan and Linda Sands, which are nieces. And then we also have a couple grand nephews, I believe, and it's Joey and Scott Bryan. I'd also like to introduce a few other people that I can see here in the background. I see Senator Becky Skillman. She was good enough to be able to show up here. The gentleman that I had to replace and fill his rather large shoes, Property Manager Emeritus Billy Carlisle back there. And then we also have Wilmina Robinson. She's the inn manager here at Spring Mill. And also John Bergman. He's Assistant Director of State Parks Operations. And Jim Cassidy, Assistant Director of State Parks. He's administrator. And then, of course, my left hand and right hand both, this is Paul Sipples. He's the Assistant Property Manager here at Spring Mill. So I just wanted to be sure to introduce a few of the people that were able to show up for this program today. And first of all, I'd like to take an opportunity, and Senator Skillman, if you feel like giving us a few words, please come forward.
Well, this is indeed a very exciting day for the community and for the park officials and for the friends of the Grissom family as well. I'm just real pleased to be a part of this celebration. It's my pleasure to be on hand here to help celebrate the new and improved Grissom Memorial. I think Lawrence County can be very proud of its heritage of producing quite a number of astronauts. It appears to be our contribution to the nation, but we'll always be just particularly proud of Gus Grissom from here in Mitchell. And my pleasure to be with you, and thanks so much for having me.
Also, we had another individual here I didn't want to forget to introduce, and that's State Representative Denbo. And if you'd like to come on up and give us a few words, please.
Thank you. Well, it's just a pleasure for me to be here to take part in something commemorating Gus Grissom. I can remember back, seems like just a few years ago, but actually it's quite a few, back when I was a 5th grade student and the astronauts were selected. I had the fortunate privilege to be in a class where Don Bush, locally here, was the student teacher, and he got us interested in the astronauts. And I'll tell you, anybody from this area grew up with Virgil Grissom being one of their heroes. He surpassed Mickey Mantle and Jim Brown, Johnny Unitas, and some of the other heroes that we had. And I've always just said we can't do enough to honor this outstanding individual. He'll always be a hero to us, and I'm very proud of the effort that the Department of Natural Resources has put forth, as well as the local citizens, to do more for this structure here. And it's something we always want to keep alive. We want generations to come to know what a great person we had right here from our local community. We can all be very proud of it. Thank you. Certainly a privilege to be here.
I was talking to Mr. and Mrs. Grissom several times leading up to this program, and I said, well, which one of you would like to be up here and be featured speaker? And both of them said, well, No, we don't. So I decided, well, I'm the best one for that then. And I felt that it was really important or interesting that our rededication is falling in at the same time period as the 25th anniversary of the first shot to the moon. This date is also the 33rd anniversary, I should say, 33rd anniversary of Virgil's first trip into space. And then also, it's the 23rd anniversary since the first dedication of the memorial. So it's interesting how it's all falling into place. And like State Representative Bimbo said, as I grew up and going through the 60s and watching all those shots into space, it's still, even today, watching the shuttle go up, it just sends a little chill down you just watching all that. And as I grew up, I had my own little model rockets that I shot up, and I just participated right along with the shuttle program and all the other space programs that went through. But Virgil was born April 3rd, 1926 in Mitchell. The oldest of 4 children and the son of Mr. and Mrs. Grissom. He graduated from Mitchell High School in 1944. After graduation, he was inducted to the Air Force. He was discharged November 1945, and in September of 1946, he entered Purdue University. In February of 1950, Virgil graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering. After graduation, he joined the Air Force, and in December 1951, he was sent to Korea. He was assigned to the 334th Fighter Interceptor Squadron, where he flew 100 missions in less than 6 months and was decorated with the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal. While assigned to the famous test pilot school at Edwards Air Force Base in California, he specialized in checking out advanced design fighter planes and emerged as one of the nation's most highly regarded test pilots. In April 1959, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration selected Gus Grissom as one of the first 7 Pioneer pilots. On July 21st, 1961, Gus made his famous suborbital flight. The capsule was lost at sea during the splashdown. Gus was enthusiastically received by President John F. Kennedy and was given a parade down Fifth Avenue in New York City. Matter of fact, I just saw that, got to see that last night on PBS. If anybody got a chance to watch that, there were some excellent programs on the space program. Gus received a number of honors during this whole time period. Twice he received Indiana's Distinguished Service Award. He received the Thomas D. White Award from the National Geographic Society. NASA presented him with the Exceptional Service Medal. Mitchell High School was renamed Virgil I. Grissom High School, and Baker Street here in Mitchell was renamed Grissom Avenue. On March 23rd, 1965, he was commanded pilot of the first manned Gemini flight, when his capsule, the Molly Brown, was boosted by a Titan rocket to 3 orbits about the Earth. You'll be able to see the Molly Brown in the memorial immediately after the program. On the afternoon of January 27, 1967, with the launch date nearing, Virgil Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were in the Apollo spacecraft continuing countdown test when a fire was reported. All 3 were killed. After the tragedy, the Indiana General Assembly promptly enacted legislation to create the Virgil I. Grissom State Memorial. As a boy, Gus and his 2 brothers and sister had frequently frequented Spring Mill State Park. It was a logical choice that the memorial be placed here. The memorial was formally dedicated by Governor Edgar D. Whitcomb on July 21st, 1971, just 10 years after the Grissom's first space flight. So we meet here again on July 21st, 1994, to rededicate the Virgil I. Grissom State Memorial. 33 years after Gus Grissom's first flight into space and 23 years after the first dedication of this memorial. I'd like to now bring Jerry Pagic forward so he can give you a little introduction on to the process that it took to get this memorial remodeled, I guess. Thank you.
By the way, we could thank Mark for one thing today. He had hoped to be able to set you up so that we could get a nice view right there of the opening of the memorial, but as you see, you'd be sitting in the sun, so that was some good planning on his part. Although you could have been a little bit closer over.
A little closer.
You didn't figure on the sun angle there. Spring Mill is really a special place. I know I don't have to tell you that, since most of you live right near here probably, but really when I look at this state park and compare it to any other in our system, or really any other in the nation, it's hard to imagine a state park that has everything that this one does. With the historic village being such a special place, the cave resource that we have throughout this area and especially within the park itself, beautiful inn, the pool and all the recreational facilities that we have here, and of course this very special place, which just makes it all the more interesting for visitors who come here. The renovation that took place here really had its beginning when a few years ago it came to our attention that we really were not doing, frankly, a very good job of caring for the artifacts that we have here displayed. When you go in there and you see the capsule, for instance, you'll see that from the thousands and thousands of school children that came through and have seen this capsule already, a lot of them couldn't help but grab and try to pick off a little piece for a souvenir, I guess, or just to be curious of the heat shield. And there were a number of things like that that we saw that we needed to do a little bit better job to protect those artifacts and also to better display them. We also had problems with the disabled accessibility to the building itself. You had to go through this back door instead of the front door. Now we're able to, with a ramp here, get folks who are not able to move around very well right through the front door. We also installed a restroom that is accessible as part of this project. Another very important thing is the temperature and humidity controls. In the years since this was first built, technology and understanding of how you display things has leaped ahead, and so what was fine back when the memorial was built is no longer considered that way when it comes to temperature and humidity controls. We now have a state-of-the-art system in there that will be able to keep that from wide fluctuations which can damage artifacts very readily. We're also working on the control of the UV light, which again can be damaging. What I'd like to do now is introduce the man who designed the changes, who's Bud Shropshire. Bud, would you raise your hand back there? Bud and his wife are here today. And this project for Bud, in fact, I tried to get Bud to come up here and tell you what he was trying to accomplish, and he's a little too modest, I think, and he said, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." But I'll tell you how best I can what the challenge was with this. What he was trying to create was the effect, of course, of the capsule being in space, and as you come in and you see it perched up now, you also can look up to the ceiling and see the recreation of a space scene or space feeling with the dark shading to a lighter blue. We also were able to, thanks to Bud's ingenuity, create an extra office space which we desperately needed without having to expand the actual building itself. And so we have a much more efficient office. Unfortunately, there's no office furniture in it yet, but there will be shortly. And again, we were able to do this without markedly changing the exterior. We added some skylights which make the interior space much more aesthetic and much more functional. And did very little change to the front, but I think we did add the letters to the front, which again really sets it off as the Grissom Memorial. So we're very pleased with the job that you did, Bud, and right on the money, I think, is the best way to put it. I want to recognize that Lindsay Lumber was the contractor who did the work and did some fine work for us with this. Beyond that, I'd like to just thank both Mark and Paul for the tremendous job they do year-round here. We never quite get enough opportunities to pat these folks on the back. We have a very dedicated staff in the Division of State Parks, and I couldn't be more proud of them. And this is just a testimonial to that, I think. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I know that today there was a mayor's meeting in Scottsburg, was it today? And we had two mayors show up, one from Bedford and one from here in Mitchell. Want both of you raise your hands there so they can see you. There's the other one over there. Moved on. What we'd like to do right now is Mr. and Mrs. Grissom have been kind enough to cut the ribbon to rededicate the memorial. So we're going to move over in front of the memorial, in front of the doors. We're going to roll the ribbon and allow them to cut the ribbon. And then there'll be a reception afterward. We have some lemonade and iced tea, and I don't know about you, but I could use some lemonade right now. And some cookies. And then you're more than welcome to walk around the memorial. Wanda, where are you at? Are you going to be still hanging around to answer any more questions?
I would like to.
Okay, she'll be.
I moved my things because I didn't want to leave them in there.
Sure. She has a number of additional photographs of Gus, and I'm sure she'll be glad to hang around and answer any other questions anybody might have. Let's let them take some pictures first if they really want to take some pictures. Mark, you get out.
Okay.
Okay, great. Got it right now.
There we go.
We rented an RV and took his family, drove around to South Dakota.
Our upstairs woodland scene has been remodeled slightly. We've created more of a woodland look rather than a lakeside look. We've moved some of our animals from one display to another. This relates to what is now found below in turning our stairwell into a little bit of a cave. We started with the bare stone walls. We added a wooden framework and then attached cave-like panels to that. I'll move closer to get more of a look at some of what he's seeing. The edge here, we tried to use some natural materials, stones along the upper edge, and then much of the inner panels were actually a wire framework with a burlap layer, and then plaster of Paris being used to create the different formations. In this way, people can now somewhat enter a cave without actually having to visit one. We feel that some school groups will benefit from this, depending on their time frame in visiting the park. As we move down, right where the scaffolding is right now, we hope to put a few informational panels, descriptions of caves, and again up on the walls, We hope to create a few areas where we'll find bats, maybe some salamanders, other types of cave formation. This shows the edge of the cave itself, not yet finished off. We'll paint that shortly.